What's going on, guys? Hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to another episode of the Creative Caffeine podcast. I'm your host. My name is Connor Wells. If we're just meeting or if you've just started listening to the podcast, I am a photographer, a videographer and a podcast producer. And we talk all those sorts of things every single week on the podcast. Hope you're all having a good week. It's been a very, very busy start to the year this year. Lots of shoots, lots of editing from like the end of December that I've been doing. It's been a pretty busy start to the week for me. Let me know in the comments below what you guys have been working on, what you guys have been shooting on, Today it's an interesting episode. We're going to be talking about AI. I feel like everyone's talking about it. I've not really said too much about it, so I wanted to give my 2 cents on the whole topic of artificial intelligence. These last few years, AI it's always sort of been there in the background this last decade, but AI has we're going straight into it, by the way. Please like and subscribe to the podcast. That'll be helpful. We're going straight into AI. AI has it's been growing exponentially. It's actually scary, and I'm gonna preface this episode with a quote that I heard. I think it was on Joe Rogan. Yeah, I think it was Joe Rogan, and I think he had Sam Altman, who is he's very high up. I think he's the founder or the CEO of ChatGPT. And I think Joe said that, isn't it scary that this is the worst that AI will ever be? And I had to pause the episode. I was like, damn. I mean, that really hit you. That really hit me, sorry. That was mental. This is the worst that AI will ever be. Absolutely insane. So we're going to be talking about a few things when it comes to AI today. Now, AI in imaging is really, really interesting. I've been using a lot of AI features when it comes to my workflow and editing and just sort of playing around with AI. So let's chat about the imaging aspect. So one of the big adopters of AI when it comes to editing and image manipulation is Adobe. Adobe have been absolutely killing it when it comes to their implementation of AI, particularly in Photoshop. They've got their generative fill, AI expander. I'll try and chuck up a few examples. So if you're just listening to this episode, it's probably going to be quite a visual episode. So I highly encourage you to head on over to Spotify or head on over to the Creative Caffeine podcast YouTube channel where you'll be able to watch this. Highly recommend that. But there's some crazy stuff that they've been doing. The AI generative fill, that's been nuts. You can draw a box around something. You could draw. Let's say you've got a photo of someone with their hand like this. You could draw a box around it and say, make them hold a can or make them hold a glass of red wine. I did that on a shoot before. We were shooting in a bar. This bar wasn't open. They'd kindly let us use it, though it wasn't open. And one of the shots, we needed somebody holding a glass of red wine. Used a bit of AI generative fill and changed the glass to make it look like it had a glass full of red wine. It was crazy, absolutely nuts. And then you've got the AI extender. So let's say, for example, this has been really, really handy. Let's say, for example, you shot a photo that's portrait, but your client says, have you got this in landscape? You don't have that shot? No? Okay, bummer. That's it. No, not with generative expander. You can literally bring your photo into Photoshop. This is Photoshop beta, by the way. And you can basically extend the photo and it will take 15-20 seconds and the AI will just generate, expand the photo. So say if you're in a forest, it will make more forest. If you're out in a field, it will expand the field. It's crazy. I'm going to chuck up a couple of examples on the screen here. It's mental. I love it. There's so many programs as well. like Mid-Journey. I'm going to chat about Mid-Journey later, but there's Mid-Journey, DALL-E, which is like the video sort of generator thing, and then of course ChatGPT, which is, I mean, where do you even start with ChatGPT? For me, I love it because it just gives me like content ideas. Script writing, it's fantastic. Contract writing, coding, it does everything. ChatGPT, you could feed it back in, when it was ChatGPT 2.0, you could feed it some code, it wouldn't understand it. And now you could feed ChatGPT 4 or 3, whatever it is at the moment. You can feed it some code and it will highlight, weaknesses in a website code. It does like cybersecurity, contracts, all this sort of stuff, idea generation, thumbnail ideas. It's mental. But jumping back to like Lightroom and Photoshop, they've got some incredible features when it comes to the AI editing. If I open up Lightroom right now, I don't really use Photoshop other than the generative fill and AI like expander, but they've got all of these AI photo editing things. Like if I bring it up here, if I wanted to say retouch my face here, it's got adaptive portrait, so it can enhance a portrait by smoothing out the skin, whitening teeth, darkening eyebrows, giving your hair more texture, enhancing clothes. And then they've got other ones like adaptive sky, so it can change the sky to be like blue, deep blue and dramatic, like a teal kind of sky, neon tropics it's called. You've got storm clouds, sunrise, sunsets. It's actually insane, and it just actually speeds up my process of editing so much. I don't have to go around and brush over every part of somebody's face, making sure I don't get their eyes in it, just to smooth out their skin. I still want those eyelashes like nice and sharp, but if I want to reduce the clarity and texture on somebody's face, then I can do that in literally a click of a button. It's mental, absolutely mental. And then jumping back into more like Lightroom, they've got so much more stuff here. Like this is really just for photo. We can touch on video in a little bit, but you could let's say I'm shooting right here on my Sony ZV-E1. This is a 12 megapixel camera, so I probably wouldn't be taking too many photos with it. But let's say I did take a whole bunch of photos with it. You can generate more megapixels from a photo. It's actually insane. It's got this thing called what's it called? Let me see if I can find it. It's called Enhance, and it will just basically give your photo super resolution. I shot on a photo in my hometown on my DJI Mini 3 Pro. Now that's 48 megapixels. I used the super resolution and it made it an 194 megapixel photo. Like, that's actually mental. That's crazy. So if you ever need to do like big prints and stuff, you could shoot photos on a Sony ZV-E1 or an A7S III. That's a 12 megapixel sensor. It's not going to be the sharpest. It's more than enough for social media. But say if you need to expand that and print it, you can do that now, all in Lightroom. This is Lightroom CC, by the way. I use Lightroom CC because I like to have my photo cloud all on my phone as well, just in case I need a photo in a pinch. Yeah, absolutely mental. So yeah, you've got like facial recognition, environment recognition as well. Yeah, like we spoke about, there's zoom, enhance. Oh, I've not even touched on AI Denoiser. I think this was one of the first things that Lightroom introduced, and that is AI Denoiser. So let's say you're shooting in a low light situation. Let's say you're shooting a concert, a gig, a show. Maybe you're at the comedy shop, like Comedy Store or something. Let's say the lighting isn't the best. I hate pumping my ISO up past 3200. It just gets like really grainy, really noisy. We don't want that. I don't actually worry about that now. I can shoot a photo at 12,800 ISO, bring it into AI Denoiser in Lightroom, and it just cleans the image up so well. It doesn't lose sharpness. It doesn't look all mushy and cartoon-like. It's mental. Actually crazy. Like, It just baffles me. It baffles me. And like I said, this is the worst that AI is ever going to be. Now, we touched on Midjourney. I spoke about that there. Again, if you're listening to this on, like, let's say Apple Podcasts, go over to Spotify, go over to YouTube and have a look at this. So Midjourney, you can give, it's basically like ChatGPT, but more for photo generation. So the prompt that I gave Midjourney was a realistic photo of a New York sandwich with beef and lettuce on a tabletop of a hip restaurant shot on a Canon 5D with a telephoto lens and an f1.4 aperture. Now, obviously, that's quite a in-depth, prompt, an in-depth brief to give Midjourney. It helps to be very specific, and this is what it generated. I'm absolutely baffled. Again, if you're watching on Spotify, if you're listening on an audio platform, go over to YouTube or go onto Spotify and have a look at the video, because it's crazy. The detail, the sharpness, the contrast of it, it just looks so well. Like, you can see that there's a window there, and you can see the light, it directionally is coming from that window. There's a bowl of salad in the background. I didn't prompt it to do that. There's some tomatoes on the table, a bottle of olive oil or vinegar or something. It's crazy what Midjourney can do, and like we said, it's the worst it's going to be. Now, we touched on a few AI enhanced editing tools, but there's a few more when it comes to video as well. I use a lot of AI when it comes to my video editing, like my post-production, mainly just sort of like clipping bits up. Now, it's mental, so I'm going to go over a few things which I find really useful. Now, when conducting remote podcasts, I use Riverside. I love Riverside. This isn't an ad, but if you do want to get 10% off a Riverside package, there's a link down in the description below. Riverside is basically remote podcasting. It's basically Zoom, but on steroids. It's Zoom, but better. You can record in 4K, you get WAV files, and they've just added a whole bunch of new features. They've got AI show notes. They've got AI clips. It removes silence from your episode. So if there's some pauses, it will cut them out. It's mental. And one of the things that I do with this podcast is, if I'm not recording it in Riverside, what I will do is export the video from Final Cut, add it in, upload it to Riverside, and it will generate a transcript of this entire podcast. It will generate some clippable moments. It will even subtitle them for you. It's actually such a time saver for me, rather than having to go through, reframe everything. It will do that all by itself. It's so sick. There's also another thing as well called AutoPod. Now, unfortunately, this is only available on Premiere Pro. It's not available on Final Cut yet, or DaVinci. But let's say you're filming an in-person podcast. You've got multiple cameras, let's say 4 guests. You can bring those files into Premiere Pro, run it through AutoPod, and it will make the cuts all by itself. It will detect which person is talking. It will detect if there's multiple people talking. It will cut to the wide of 2 people. In like 20 seconds, you can edit like an hour-long podcast with multiple cameras, multiple audio files. It's so mad. Like, I wish it would come to Final Cut Pro. That would be a real game changer, because I can't be asked with Premiere. No offense to all the Premiere editors here, but I can't be asked to relearn a new software, even though Final Cut is kind of being rejected and neglected by Apple. But here's me, fingers crossed. I'm hoping we can still get a few more updates. So yeah, AutoPod, it will cut up your video for you. Actually mental. Another one that I use is an app called Captions. Now, I caption my talking head videos in this app. So it will generate and animate captions, give them color. It will, put emojis on top of it or something. Now, I use this for the podcast as well to give it more, more animated captions and subtitles and stuff. Let's find one. I spoke here in the first episode about time management strategies. It will generate a title for your video, and the title is time management strategies, improving efficiency with Apple reminders, because I obviously spoke about the fact that I use Apple reminders. It'll also generate a description for you to post on, let's say, Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook, LinkedIn, and all that sort of stuff. And then it will also generate hashtags for you. Actually crazy. Like, there's no need for copywriters anymore. Like, this is like the most time-saving thing ever. Like, posting content now on TikTok and Instagram has just never been more easy and less time consuming. All I need to do is upload it, copy and paste, rejig it a little bit to make sure, it's, on brand with me, fitting what I want to say. But it's such a time saver. It's mental. Now, obviously, there's a lot of AI software and editing stuff, but there's now actual AI in-camera technology. Now, I'm shooting with the Sony ZV-E1. It's like Sony's hybrid flagship vlogging camera. I personally don't think of this as a vlogging camera. Any camera with 4K 120 frames a second is a professional camera, in my opinion. It shoots S-Log3, S-Log2, S-Cinetone. It's got the same sensor as the FX6 or something and the A7S3. But it's got a whole bunch of AI features. So it's got, eye tracking, face tracking, facial recognition. It's got this thing called product showcase mode. So let's say, I've not got it turned on right now, but let's say if I hold up a can, it will focus on this can. In the past, on previous cameras, even on my Sony A7 IV, that hasn't got that. If I wanted to showcase a product, I'd have to do the whole, cover up your face sort of thing. And even then, it still sometimes goes back and forth. Mental. Shout out to Sneak. There's a link in the description if you want to check out Sneak. But yeah, it's got a whole bunch of AI thing. It's got this thing called auto framing where you tap your subject face on the screen, and I'm going to move around a bit. As I move around, it will follow you, zoom in. It's better if you're shooting on a 16-35, a wide angle lens, but it will auto frame for you, which is great for just setting your camera up and just filming a bit of BTS. Now, let's say, for example, you've got you've tracked your face, but then you turn around in shot and you're starting to walk around a little bit. It will detect your body. It will draw a square around your body, follow you round and it's just going to auto-focus on you. Same with the auto-framing. It will do that. Let's say you turn around, you've got your back to the camera. It will still recognise that you are the subject, and that's what it should be focusing on. Obviously, the Sony's got its AI auto-tracking, so it can detect that I'm a human. But let's say that I want to shoot some cars, I want to photograph a plane, I want to photograph some animals. It will detect that, it will track a dog's eye, it will track, an entire car and an aeroplane, even trains, I think. We've got planes, trains and automobiles over here. It's mental. Now, one of the things as well that's come out recently in AI, I'm sure if you watch YouTube or if you watch TV, not that I really watch much TV, but I'm constantly seeing the Google Pixel adverts on YouTube before videos. We get 5 mid-rolls or 5 pre-video ads now. It's mental. I'm this close. I'm this close to paying for YouTube Premium because I'm sick of the ads. I'm so done with ads. But one ad that keeps catching my eye is the Google Pixel. I'm never going to get a Google Pixel. I'm iPhone for life. I'm an iSheep. But they've got this thing called Best Shot or Best Take or something. And let's say you take a series of photos, or you're taking selfies with a group. Now, if you're a wedding photographer or you do family portraits, you'll know you're going to need to overshoot when it comes to group photos. Someone's looking the other way, someone's got their eyes closed, someone's smiling, someone's not. This Best Take thing will basically record your screen and take multiple photos, and then we'll face swap a photo of it will face swap someone's face if they're not smiling. You can obviously manually do that. It just doesn't automatically just do that. But let's say you're taking a picture with some friends, the person on your left is smiling, you're smiling, the person on your right isn't smiling at all, and they're looking away, or they were smiling earlier but you just missed the shot. It will have that information there, and you can make them smile. It's actually mental. Now, that brings us on to ethical considerations and challenges when it comes to AI, because you can manipulate an image like that and tell a completely different story, a completely different narrative in a photo, in a video. Do you remember that video or the photo of that went viral on X, formerly known as Twitter, of the Pope wearing this big white puffer jacket? Everybody thought it was real. It wasn't. It was all generated in AI, and that was a good year ago when that happened. And that, now AI is drastically improved since then. You can generate an image that isn't real. The amount of times where I'm scrolling Twitter and I see an image and I'm like, oh my God, is this actually happening? Or is that real? And then you see a community note saying, no, this is an AI generated image. It's getting really, 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 really scary now with what AI can do. Joe Rogan was speaking about it on his podcast. He started seeing ads because AI can generate an audio file using his voice. You just type in what you want it to say, and Joe Rogan, because there's so much data there on Joe Rogan. There's, how many episodes has he done now? Nearly 3,000 episodes. It might even be more. No, 2,076 episodes. There's so much information out there. There's so much data of his voice that AI can just generate his voice now, and it can, you can run an ad, you can endorse a product by a celebrity's voice. Let's say you've got a pair of headphones that you want to promote. You can find a celebrity and type in what you want that celebrity to say, and it will generate their voice, and as if they're endorsing these pair of AirPods or something. It's getting very scary. There's definitely a real consideration to make when it comes to the efficacy of AI. And for me as a photographer, it's getting quite I'm not scared, like I've said before, on Instagram and when I've been a guest on podcasts. I think you're either going to be replaced by AI or replaced by somebody using AI. Now, obviously, I'm starting to use AI a bit. It's handy. I do think for photographers and videographers, if you're not implementing AI into your business, you are eventually just going to get left behind. Now, do I think that photographers are going to get replaced completely? No, I don't. For example, events, in-person events, sporting events, concerts, you can't recreate that. You can't recreate that magic of photography or video with AI. I think we're a long, long way off from getting replaced. But the photographers that aren't implementing AI into their business are going to be left by the wayside. People want quicker and quicker returns when it comes to their photo editing and their video editing projects. If you're manually typing out your captions, you're getting left behind by a person who is editing their video and then running it through an app to generate captions for them. If you're spending hours editing photos, you're not going to get picked by somebody. If there's a photographer out there who can use a bit of AI to enhance an image, let's say you're doing a shoot, you want a sunset in the photo, and there's a photographer who's like, oh, I don't know how to add a photo, I don't know how to add a sunset, or I don't know how to add a rainbow in the background. If there's a photographer, an editor out there who knows how to do that with the power of AI, you're going to get picked. And like I said, I don't think photographers are going to be completely replaced by AI. Not at all. There's definitely still a need for photographer, but it's you need to implement AI. That's my 2 cents on the whole thing. But the efficacy of it is scary, particularly when it comes to health and safety and all those sorts of things. When AI generates false information and all that sort of stuff. One thing I saw on a podcast once, they were speaking about the first supercomputer. I think I'm 99% sure it's like an urban myth, like an urban legend, where they powered on a supercomputer, and then they asked it a question: "Is there a God?" And it replied, "There is now." And then a bolt of lightning struck it, and there was a power surge, and it broke or something. And I always like that story. I can't remember which podcast or who was telling that story, but it's always quite interesting, and I think it's quite relevant now. Yeah, so I think that's all I have to say when it comes to AI and you know, the rise of AI and technology. It's very interesting. I love it. I love seeing, you know, what's new in AI each week and, you know, seeing how I can implement it into my workflow, you know, how it can get me from A to B quicker and more efficiently, how it can improve me as a photographer, how it can improve my work and all those sorts of things. So I find the whole topic of AI and technology very, very interesting, very entertaining. You know, there's some stupid things that people do with AI where they generate absolutely bonkers images. Yeah, there's a Twitter page, an X page. I follow it, and it's just the most bizarre AI generated like images, like just like, I don't know, Stuart Little fighting off something. I don't know. That's just an example that I saw. It's nuts. I'd love to know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Tell me what you think of AI. Are you scared of it? Are you embracing it? Do you think it's a good thing? Do you think it's a bad thing? Do you think we should be slowing down with AI? Do you think we should be speeding up? You know, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to chat with you there. Thank you very much for listening. If you made it this far into the deep end, please do hit the subscribe button on Spotify, on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening to or watching this. You can find shorts of the podcast on YouTube, on Instagram, and all of those video platforms. And until next week, or until I'm replaced by AI, I'll see you in the next one.